Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master, and sorry I haven't been online lately. Next to being sick, having more hours at work, and even getting into a long-distance relationship with a wonderful woman who I'm proud to call my girlfriend, it has kept me from my usual video editing and YouTube postings. But those aren't the biggest reasons. The big reason is I popped in Tales of Berseria in a few weeks ago thinking that it would be just like Tales of Berseria. A game where I played when I felt like it and only on very rare occurrences really cared about the plot, and worse, cared about its characters even less. The characters in Tales games are what make them for me. They're usually funny but very human. They have their flaws and they squabble and bicker. None of that happened in Zestiria for the most part, with the exception of Zavid's introduction 2/3 into the game. So although I saw the trailers and they did look interesting, it didn't stop me from playing a 5-year-old game I played through several times on the 3DS just to see what it looked like in HD, and I'll cover that game later. When I popped in this game and just had all my free time consumed just like that, Berseria's got the best story and lineup of characters I've seen in a JRPG so far, and it's a lot of fun to play. So let's tear into Tales of Berseria. Oh, I also bought this on the PS4, by the way, because the demo I played of the Steam version wouldn't work well on my rig, and there was an awful bug that showed up that ruined my enjoyment. Tell me if you think this sounds annoying. Warning, I am not responsible for burst eardrums, deafness, and the wanting to commit suicide just to end the awful noise you are about to hear. You have been warned. Tales of Berseria's plot and story is really thick and really good. I'll have to make another video on it sometime. Just know it's a prequel to Tales of Zestiria and predates it by a millennium or two. You play as Velvet Crow, a kind-hearted woman whose village gets destroyed at the beginning of the game. And before you go, Tommy, that is the most overused cliche in the JRPG book, I'll say, yeah, but the game does something different with it. Rather than focus on the destruction of the villages, it focuses on the destruction of the character. During the night that Velvet's village is destroyed and her brother is sacrificed and thrown down some sort of magic well by Velvet's own brother-in-law slash father figure, she gets turned into a demon trying to rescue him, as most of her emotions and senses dulled. And it's shocking to see Velvet go from this to this in a matter of a cutscene. But unlike Lightning, whose emotions and senses were removed, so therefore she's a dull character, we see Velvet struggle with the need for revenge, struggling to understand what human emotions she has left, and struggling to protect the people who start off just as a band of people she can use to somewhat legitimate friends, and just how to deal with them and her relationships with them. Throw in a decent and conflicted villain in Artorias, and you got yourself a great Tales game. I will warn you though, if you're someone who doesn't like a lot of cutscenes and skits in these RPGs, you're not going to like this one though. While the story is interesting, it does come with a lot of skits and cutscenes. A bit too much sometimes, where even I got just a little frustrated. It's a small complaint, but it might be a bigger deal to other gamers who just want to focus on the gameplay. Again, the story's really good, so it's worth sitting down and listening and watching to all of them, but if you're someone who lacks the patience, you might want to find another game. Gameplay-wise, the battle system isn't as good as Asteria's. It doesn't quite have as much strategy like he did with the Armatization, but it's still a lot of fun. On the bottom of the screen you have a certain amount of souls that allow the amount of combos and attacks you have. Stunning or killing enemies can get you souls, while being stunned or killed can cost you souls. However, Velvet can also enter a Therion mode, which costs her a soul but allows her to extend her combos beyond the amount of souls she has to do a huge finishing move. It also uses the blast gauge, which allows you for switching characters while in battle, and of course the use of mystic arts done by the characters. As for normal basic combos, they're broken down into 3 groups: the martial arts, the hidden arts are more normal moves, and then of course Malic arts for magic attacks that require a charge time. Overall, it's a really fast-paced battle system, but it does lack the strategy that Zestiria had when it comes just to its armamentization and the ability to switch out characters on the fly. And while it is button mashing, I would be lying if I didn't say I enjoyed it. So, what about equipping and managing your armor and weapons? Good news is this bullcrap is no more. We're going back to the basics. It might be simple and a bit boring, but it works without much of a headache. Basically, each weapon has a skill attached to it that is kept when you mastered said weapon. A weapon can be improved by synthing, and weapons of the same type can be broken down for their components to improve other weapons. Again, it's simple and it doesn't take time to manage. Some weapons that have higher base stats are rarer than common weapons with lower base stats that are easier to upgrade, so you do have to think twice about equipping a new weapon sometimes, but it's nowhere near the confusion that Zestiria had. As far as the stage designs, the overworlds are pretty good this time, broken up into islands that can be sailed to and traversed to easy, although you can still purchase items for true fast travel. Next to the main objective, various side quests will open up, plus hunts and secret enemies that can just appear after a fight if you fight too much in one area. These extra enemies are hard to put down, but are worth a lot of extra cash and grade points for those weapons. The only bad thing I can say is a lot of the dungeons are kind of just basic RPG dungeons and lack any imagination. They're not awful, but you're not going to be memorizing them or going, oh, that was a great experience going through that dungeon. You've seen these dungeons before in other RPGs, and they're just really not that fun to traverse, unfortunately. That's the only bad thing I can say about the game, is that its dungeons are kind of boring. Fortunately, they are short, though. Playing on the PS4, the game ran smoothly at a 60 frames per second rate, which shouldn't be surprising as it is the exact same graphics engine as that was used in the Xillia games, and it's starting to show its age with some of its character designs and environments kind of lacking the details you find in a lot more modern day RPGs. It's not ugly by any means, but you can definitely tell that this was meant to be developed for the PlayStation 3. As for the sound, it's got a well-rounded cast of voice actors here for the English dub, and hats off to Christina V, who voiced Velvet, as she is a complicated character with many tones and emotions, oftentimes going from a fierce raging monster to a tender-hearted person all in the same scene. The rest of the voice actors give good performances for their characters. Monica Real's Bienfu might be a bit too good because he's supposed to be an annoying character, but she voices him as being a bit too annoying and it sounds abrasive.
Leave Eleanor alone, you fiend!
To sum it all up, Tales of Berseria is probably one of the best JRPGs I have played in a long time. It's kind of a shame it decided to come out on the same week as Kingdom Hearts 2.8, Resident Evil 7, and Dragon Quest VIII's 3DS port, so I think it was kind of overlooked by the fan base that would be interested in this type of game, but it does have a really good storyline and a lot of fun gameplay to boot. It's not perfect by any means, but I didn't feel like I was cheated out of the $60, unlike some other game I just purchased on the same day, but I'll get to finishing that review later. This is Tommy the Game Master, thanking you for watching this video. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below, and feel free to click subscribe. I would love to have you as a member of my community.